A writer returns to his childhood home to visit his ailing father. Memories of his twin sister's troubled past resurface, reminding him of the tragedy that once drove him to abandon his family. Ned, accompanied by his fiancée, Tony, embarks on a journey to his family's rural home. En route, Tony discreetly removes her name tag and asks Ned to introduce her as an actress to his family. Suddenly, their car collides with an object, startling Tony. Ned reassures her, claiming it was just a kangaroo, and they step out to inspect the incident. After moving the carcass aside, they reach his childhood home, where Ned's sister, Sally, welcomes them. However, Sally is taken aback by the presence of his new partner. With their father already asleep, Ned and Tony retire to his childhood bedroom. Before bedtime, Ned pays a visit to the vacant room of his twin sister, Kate. The following morning, Ned fondly reminisces about Kate, recalling her playful teasing and tickling. He attempts to engage Tony similarly but intensifies the intimacy. When his father awakens, Ned and Tony pay him a visit. The father is battling congestive heart disease, prompting Ned to remind him of potential treatments. Yet, Bruce, his father, adamantly refuses to rely on machines for a few additional months of life. A photograph of Kate is discovered on the bedside table, leading to a solemn silence between Bruce and Ned. In a private moment, Sally confronts her brother about bringing his fiancée, asserting that Bruce has long awaited Ned's return. Now, with Bruce's imminent passing, he has brought someone new instead of prioritizing family. Feeling guilty, Ned shifts the conversation, pondering whether Sally will stay after Bruce's passing. Sally discloses that the bank already owns their house, and they will inherit only the items from Bruce's workshop. Sally later guides her brother to a nearby dried-up dam, sharing childhood memories of leeches there and Kate's fearless swimming. The mention of Kate's name silences Ned once more. During lunch, Tony inquires about Kate, to which Sally reveals her absence. Sally clarifies that Kate was Ned's twin sister. Tony playfully jokes about their dissimilar looks, and Bruce defends Ned's attractiveness while teasing his weakness for women. During a visit to the family's old barn, Ned recalls the tragic discovery of his older brother, Cliff's, body years ago. This poignant memory is interrupted when Tony asks about Kate's cause of death. Ned provides a simple explanation. She died in a car accident. Later, Ned explores his father's workshop, feeling disheartened by the lack of valuable items. In the dead of night, Ned awakens to overhear his father's quiet sobs. Ned, unable to console his elderly father, retreats to their old schoolroom. There, he stumbles upon a bull-riding medal that once belonged to his late brother, Cliff. Flooded with memories from his childhood, Ned decides to write about his past. He openly expresses how Cliff's tragic death has haunted him since his return, and how he holds their father accountable for the tragedy. The following day, Ned rises late and discovers a note from Sally, stating that she's at the clinic, leaving him responsible for their father's care. Undeterred by his fiancée and his father, Ned continues his writing. The schoolroom triggers memories of a time when Brucey confronted Cliff about another teenager winning a scholarship. Instead of scolding his son, Bruce berated Cliff for not being smarter. But Kate came to her brother's defense, arguing that the other teenager could focus on his studies because his father didn't make him work. Bruce interrupts Ned's thoughts, inquiring about his writing. Ned feigns that he's working on a new book. Bruce then brings up the events of the previous summer when Ned was last at home. Ned reminds his father that it was when Cliff swerved to avoid a kangaroo, resulting in Kate's tragic death. Bruce presses Ned about why he left after the incident, but his son brushes him off, claiming Tony is calling him. This angers Bruce, leading to a heated exchange before Ned walks out. Outside, Ned assists Tony in practicing mechanical bull riding using a barrel. The activity triggers memories of a festival where he watched his crush, Tamara, ride a mechanical bull. Kate slapped him in response to his interest in Tamara and left. Tamara subsequently invited Ned to be her dance partner, but Kate returned abruptly on a motorcycle, interrupting the moment. Back inside, Tony watches television, and Sally offers to make her some coffee. However, Tony makes an insensitive comment about being everyone's servant, offending Sally. Feeling guilty, Tony approaches Sally to apologize, and Sally candidly tells her that if she were in her shoes, she would have left both Bruce and Ned. Sally then hands her brother a list of instructions. That night, upon Tony's encouragement, Ned decides to take a few days off. However, the next day, Tony finds him working once more, prompting her to insist that he entertains her, considering it was he who brought her there. Attempting to distract him, she tempts Ned, and he eventually gives in. However, when Tony becomes loud, Ned worries that Bruce might hear, so he issues a warning. Despite this, Tony raises her voice, causing her fiancé to back off and cover her. She questions why he never looks at her face during intimate moments, but Ned evades the question and simply reminds her that they are getting married. This leads to another intimate encounter, though Ned struggles to maintain focus while facing her. Due to the heated exchange, Tony storms out of the house. Later, the remote alarm for Bruce sounds, but Ned is at the old dam, burning the junk from his father's workshop. An irritated Bruce attempts to stand on his own, but ends up falling. With no alternative, Tony checks on him and helps him get up from the floor. Despite her frustration with the situation, Tony tends to the elderly man, even changing his ruined clothes. Bruce detects the smell of smoke when she opens the window, and Tony explains Ned's actions. Annoyed with his son, Bruce questions why Tony is marrying Ned when she should already be in Hollywood. This pleases Tony since her dream is to become an actress. Upon Ned's return home, he overhears his fiancée flirting with his father and hinting at her plan to leave her fiancé. However, Bruce applauds her performance, leading Ned to realize that she's rehearsing lines for an audition. Assured of Tony's loyalty, he goes to their bedroom but is reminded of a childhood incident when he accidentally saw Kate without her shirt. She scolded him and told him to leave. Later, she joined him in the bedroom, lamenting the passage of time and how things were better when they were children. She asked Ned to tickle her, so he began tracing her back, inadvertently causing her to cry as she mourned their mother. Ned comforted her, but their closeness unintentionally led to his own embarrassment. He apologized to his sister, who then left. In the present, Ned prepares a special dinner for his fiancée, only to find her reading his work, which leads her to discover the awkward encounter with his sister. Ned falsely claims that it's fiction, but Tony doubts him. Enraged by the discovery of his unsettling past, she slaps him, and in a surprising turn, he retaliates with a slap of his own. Ned immediately apologizes, but Tony, furious, departs on her own. Ned reflects on what transpired after that encounter. He hid in the barn out of embarrassment, but Kate found him. He attempted to explain that he wasn't tempted by her, but she insisted on pretending that it didn't happen. In the evening, Ned awakens from his dream to the sound of a car driving away. He realizes that Tony has left him and confronts his father, deducing that Bruce had arranged for someone to drive her out of town. Ned berates Bruce, blames him for Cliff's death, and issues a threat before storming out. However, his attempt to chase after Tony ends in a mishap as his car becomes stuck in a ditch. While Tony and the other vehicle vanish into the distance, Ned, heartbroken by feeling abandoned by everyone, throws a fit until he stumbles on the dirt road. With his car stuck, Ned ends up returning to his father's home in the morning. He prepares Bruce's medicine, but the frightened man holds him at gunpoint, fearing that his son intends to harm him. Ned assures his father that he didn't mean what he said the previous night when he was drunk, but Bruce remains cautious. Ned offers his apologies and assures Bruce that he no longer blames him for Cliff's actions, believing that Cliff took his own life due to guilt over Kate's death. With this revelation, Bruce allows Ned to assist him. One night from years ago, Ned arrived home late after a night of drinking with friends. His twin sister was in the kitchen, prompting Ned to go to the dam to clean a wound before facing her. Kate, however, followed him and joined him in the water to swim together. While in the water, Kate shared her lack of concern about ever kissing another man. Uncomfortable with the topic, Ned tried to dismiss it, but she brought up their awkward encounter. Kate confided that it made her feel good to excite him because it reassured her that she still liked men. With this in mind, she offered Ned the chance to touch her, emphasizing that it would remain a secret. She then kissed him, initiating a closeness that they were never meant to share. Ned felt guilty about their encounter, while Kate sang happily, having achieved her desired reaction. She advised her brother to pretend she was someone else. Ned snaps back to the present when his father calls him. As Bruce returns to bed, he gazes at a photo of Kate and mentions that he continues to be haunted by the day she died. He keeps imagining her calling for help during the accident, but Ned dismisses his grief and leaves. Following that night with Kate, Ned attempted to avoid his sister but couldn't entirely evade her presence during family dinners. In the present, he finds his father struggling to breathe after removing his pillows. Annoyed with his son's apparent lack of care, Bruce rejects Ned's assistance, regardless of how patient Ned is with him. Testing his patience, Ned reflects on the time when Kate surprised him after he had slept at the farm. She revealed that Cliff was grounded for returning home late from his job and offered to drive Ned back instead. While he allowed her to drive him, Ned refused her invitation to spend time together, fully aware that he was avoiding her. Kate promised that Cliff would be there to protect him, angering Ned, who was appalled that she could joke about their shared secret. Offended, she drove off without him. That Christmas, Ned chose not to attend the town's party, but Kate called him, claiming that Cliff wanted to see him. Leading Ned to the barn, Kate left her twin brother fearing that she might have told Cliff about their secret encounter. However, Kate had apparently twisted the truth, telling Cliff that Ned had made advances towards her. Consumed by guilt, Ned almost dared his brother to attack him, seemingly seeking punishment for his actions. Provoked by this, Cliff punched Ned, sparking a fight between them. Kate, overhearing the commotion, called Bruce to intervene. Bruce resorted to kicking his sons to stop the brawl while Kate defended Cliff, placing the blame squarely on Ned. In response, Bruce ordered Ned to escort Kate to the party and bring her home afterward. When Ned glanced back at his siblings, he saw Kate kissing Cliff's head and mouthing to him that she hated Ned, apparently manipulating the situation to her advantage. In the present, Ned writes about this memory, but pauses when Bruce calls for him. Bruce inquires about his daughter, and Ned informs him that Sally will return later. Bruce assumes that his son will depart when Sally returns, but Ned reveals his intention to finish writing his story first. He confesses that he's working on an autobiography, prompting Bruce to wonder what his son is writing about him. Later, Bruce requests to go outside, so Ned accompanies him to the dried-up dam. While there, Bruce acknowledges that his children don't show him much care since they address him by his name. He admits that he attempted to fill the void left by their mother's death but didn't know how to do it properly. Bruce recognizes that Ned still harbors blame against him for Cliff's death and defends his tough approach, reasoning that he knew the world would be harsh on his eldest son. Contemplating this conversation, Ned recalls the day of the party with Kate. She tried to flirt with him and encouraged him to go somewhere private, but he declined and found Tamara instead, whom he kissed before Kate. This brought tears to Kate's eyes, and she turned to Cliff for comfort. After some romantic involvement with Tamara, Ned happily drove back home alone. However, he was met with the devastating sight of Cliff's crashed car on the way, with Kate's lifeless body in the back seat. Ned mourned his sister while desperately calling for Cliff, only to find his lifeless body hanging in the barn. The following day, in the present, Sally returns home. Later that night, while she prepares a meal for Bruce, she checks on Ned, who informs her that he has finished writing his new book and plans to leave in the morning. Ned offers to take his father's dinner to him instead, but Sally dissuades him, believing he might confess something to Bruce during that time. This surprises Ned, and Sally explains that she was also at the dam when he and Kate were together. Ned feels ashamed, but Sally reassures him that she has forgiven him for their actions. She reveals that Cliff had gone through a similar experience, but the guilt ultimately overwhelmed him. The clock on Cliff's car stopped when it crashed, giving the police the exact time when it happened. It confused them since the car crashed hours after the two supposedly left the party, so they wondered where Cliff and Kate went before going home. Since Sally knew what Kate tempted Ned to do, she figured out that she did the same to Cliff. This was why their brother took his own life, unable to bear his strange relationship with Kate, while blaming himself for her death. Overwhelmed by this revelation, Ned hurries to their father. Sally stops him, fearing that telling Bruce how messed up Kate was will break his heart. She begs her brother not to do it, but Ned goes to the man's bedroom anyway. Instead of telling him, Ned only confesses that he left Kate at the party because he wanted to be with Tamara. He admits that his father was right. His weakness was women. This allows him to put Kate's death on himself. He also confesses that even though he wanted to blame their father's strictness for Cliff's demise, He truly thinks that Bruce should have been tougher on his older brother. If Cliff wasn't as good as he was, he would have put himself first and refused to drive Kate home. That would have forced Ned to drive his sister home instead, and he wouldn't have swerved the car to avoid a kangaroo. Because of this, Ned sobs as he apologizes for hating and blaming his father. The man crumbles beside his father, and Bruce holds his son to comfort him, finally reconnecting their broken relationship. In the morning, Bruce has passed away in his sleep, so Ned and Sally prepare for his wake and eventually scatter his ashes on the farm. After the wake, Sally takes Ned to the community where she works. Her brother worries that she'll be lonely now that she's alone, but the woman points out the kids that she's looking after in the community, proud of her. Ned grieves how Bruce never realized that Sally was his greatest achievement, not the beautiful Kate. Soon, the man burns the manuscript for his autobiography, deciding to let the past go. He then embraces his sister before they part ways. While driving, he finds Tony's name tag still in his car, so he puts it on his dashboard, wondering if he still has a chance to patch things up with his fiancée. That's it for today. We will come back with more movie recaps. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more videos like this. Till then, take care.